All right, let's get started then. Obviously, I'm remote. If we run into any connectivity problems, just be aware I am on the move here, and just be prepared to pick that up. But so far, I've got good signal. It sounds like so. Let's call the meeting to order. This is, of course, our weekly finance meeting for the commissioners. Today's date, Wednesday, December 28th, and appointed hour 1:30 arrived, and then some. We'll move into the meeting and start with public comment up for the group, please.
Nobody's on.
Yeah. Nobody's on. Okay.
Nobody's in the audience neither.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That being the case, we'll move on to the first bullet item, which is the discussion and approval of evaluator services and technology. And this is in regards to tax administration.
She'll be at the meeting, but I would suggest moving on to another item.
Okay. All right. In that case, we'll move on to the second item. We have the discussion and approval regarding an exploratory committee and the appointments of the result of a public solicitation for public input. And Stacy, I'm going to turn this over to you, and you can explain the process. Go ahead.
Sure. So, commissioners, a request was made like 2 months ago to have some public input on how to manage the remaining proceeds from the nursing home. After discussion, it was determined that to have what the individuals really wanted, which was dialogue back and forth, it really couldn't be a traditional meeting such as we're here today. And so I've put together a plan to move forward with the creation of this exploratory committee, and am asking for the appointment of 12 individuals. So there were several members of senior management and the Human Services Policy Team Steering Committee who reviewed the applicants, and they were scored. The scores were provided. I added all of the scores together and came up with the top 12 individuals by score, which are the individuals that you see before you. We had 5 individuals who, while they are interested in serving, their scores did not put them into that top level group. The scoring matrix itself was designed to do several things. One, at just a bare minimum, it was looking for individuals who could follow instructions. We received at least one application that was not complete. It didn't include most of the actual application itself. It was also looking for individuals who were willing to collaborate. And then also individuals who had experience with working for the common good on a project to bring that forward. And again, I think that the group did a good job of scoring. Everybody's goal was to be consistent with their scoring. Our scores were not uniform. We all read the applications in a slightly different way, but I think that gave a very well-rounded review of the applications. So I'm bringing forward for approval this list with the understanding that if it is approved, I'll be reaching out to the individuals, letting them know they've been appointed, providing them a handful of dates in mid-January to pick from. And we'll get started from there with having our first organizational meeting. And then it will be up to them to start moving the agenda forward within the constructs of what the steering committee has set forth, which is a committee that will have subcommittees in 4 major areas, human service areas of mental health, drug and alcohol, and ID, as well as older adults or nursing home needs and juvenile needs. And individuals will be appointed to those subcommittees and will research and then conduct a series of meetings open to the public to gather input from the public on the plan as they begin to develop it. Any questions? Okay.
Some of these names are familiar. I think Gene Koontz is he still a borough council?
That I'm not sure I was able to tell from the application.
Okay, Corby Myers, is that Dr. Myers?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes.
I have no questions.
Stacy, I have a question. I heard Vince mention Gene Koontz, and I could not hear the response. Is that in regard to the individual by the same name who serves on the Industrial Development Authority?
I don't know. I could certainly pull the application.
It's not relevant. I mean, he's been a very good member there. I was just curious if that, off the top of your head, if you knew that was part of the credentials. So I don't really have any questions on
Yeah,
that.
not
either.
off the top of my head, I'm not aware.
Okay. All right. And Stacy, you mentioned some of the parameters, but does the organization have essentially a charter statement that says this is the goal of the organization?
I have a rough draft of it, and that is one of the things that will go out to these individuals. So I just need to work on that this afternoon and
Okay.
put that all together so I can send it to the individuals.
Okay. And I guess I have to ask this other question. So when we first discussed this, there was considerable discussion that we wanted to be sure we had objective individuals. I can't help but notice there's several names on here of folks who have been outspoken in terms of their opinions on this in the past, even going as far as to pen very strong letters to the editor, some of which I frankly found very insulting toward our county controller, who urged caution with public funds. So in terms, as someone who has facilitated sessions, I'm very familiar with the idea that one or two strong voices can really, contaminate discussion, and it's hard to rein folks in. So are we confident that these folks are now prepared to kind of set aside that prior advocacy and really commit to an exploratory role?
I think that's really the only way that they will be able to participate, actually.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Doesn't sound like we have any questions. So, okay. So it says discussion and approval. So I guess we're looking for a motion at this point.
I'm going to move to approve the exploratory committee appointment recommendations of the following individuals: Lawrence Clark, Caitlin Cluck, Lou Conser, Barry Denk, Joseph Gottwald, Ruth Howard, Gene Koontz, Corby Myers, Kelly Neiderer, Randy Nolen, Rick Rovegno, and Jennifer Schwalm. These appointments are for 6 months, effective December 28th, 2022, and expiring June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further questions, comments?
I just have a question for you, Stacy.
Mhm.
I see that this expires June 30th, 2023. If the work is not completed by June 30th, 2023, is it safe for me to believe that these will be extended?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? If not, we'll call the action. All in favor of the proposal indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, anything additional on that item, Stacy?
No, but I would note that Robin Weigle is here if there's interest in moving back to the first bulleted item.
I think that's fine.
Let's
I
do that.
apologize. I was waiting for my notice for the Zoom and I was working-
sent it out yesterday. I'm sorry if you didn't receive it.
no.
I'll check into that, Robin.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, why don't we proceed with that, with Robin's comments regarding this contract?
This is our annual maintenance and support contract for the CAMA system. It's broken down into 3 elements: the basic maintenance, our software assurance portion, which we added after we got the new server to keep us up to date, Windows versions, things like that. And then, always the possibility of needing modifications, and stuff like that. So it's time to get with the next year.
Okay, any discussion points? Anyone?
No.
If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed contract from tax administration for evaluator services and technology. Contract year, January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2023. New contract amount is $51,400.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further questions, comments before we vote? Not hearing any, we'll move forward. All those in favor of the action indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Robin.
All right, that will move us. That will move us to the final discussion point in regards to nonprofit business category, and this is in regards to the Rescue Act county grants program. Stacy, I think you're slated to discuss.
So as we started looking at the spreadsheet of all 322 applicants, we noticed that there were a handful that during the initial review, they had slotted themselves into the infrastructure category, or had slotted themselves into a different application type in the nonprofit category, and they were inadvertently missed. The subject matter expert for infrastructure, Kirk Stoner, had a conversation with Carolyn Blatchley, the executive director of the Cumberland County Library System, and they agreed that all of the libraries really were better suited in the nonprofit category. These were not moved correctly into that category, and we noticed it. And so I wanted to bring them forward to you today for consideration for approval. So the first is John Graham Library. The thing I really want to point out here, besides the project itself, is their match percentage. That is somewhat misleading in that their entire project is a $600,000 project that they will match of that in total $400,000. So their match truly is more like 66%, 67% rather than the 23%. They asked for $200,000. They are contributing $60,000 of that for this phase one, but they are matching the remaining phases of the project. So they do plan on extending the children's room by adding an addition to the library. And again, the total cost of that project is roughly $600,000, of which they are asking $200,000. I don't know if you've been to the John Graham Library. It is a very cozy place, I will say. And so one of the biggest reasons for their asking for this is to provide a safer meeting place, both for children as well as for other events. The Bosler Memorial Library also has a project to expand their children's programming, but really all of their outdoor programming. So they have plans to make some modifications in some outdoor space, as well as at the library's 29 Southwest Street building, to again be able to spread out into other spaces for programming purposes. They believe that that will allow them to offer additional programming, and it is worth noting that in their 29 Southwest Street building, they are planning on putting in a chairlift and other ADA accessibility features in their restrooms, which will make their facilities more accessible. And then New Cumberland Library is looking at making some changes to their building. I'm not sure if you've been to the New Cumberland Library. It is not quite as cozy as the John Graham Library, but it is a challenging space, being such an old facility, an old building. And so they have plans to make structural repairs and renovate to provide more accessible spaces for the public, as well as to spread out the space that is available to the public. Do you have any questions about the three projects that have been brought forward.
Only that, can we correct the project cost for the Graham Library? It's very misleading. the way it's
Sure.
written.
And I will tell you that I pulled that right off of their application, and when I was looking at the full details of their application this morning is when I really noticed, oh, this is not actually correct information. Yes.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
Okay. Yeah, so their total match would be $340,000. No, 400,000.
That's within the scope of the entire project.
That's the scope of the
Phase one.
entire project. The project total is really 600,000.
Okay.
I think that's what keeps throwing me in, as I keep looking at that 260, and I try to dice and slice the math, and it's incorrect if you look at it that way. So the number should be total request 200,000, total match 400,000, project total 600,000, and then the match would be 67%.
I agree.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, we'll entertain a motion then.
I will move to approve the additional recommendations for the profit business category of the Cumberland County Grant Program as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further questions? I'll just note I'm going to be a no vote in keeping with my past votes on in regards to Rescue Act allocations. So if there's nothing else, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Hello? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And please record my vote as no. All right, anything additional on that? Apparently not. Okay, that moves us into any additional business to come to the board. Stacy, commissioners. Okay, well, I entertain a motion for adjournment then.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.